Hi, right. Welcome to what's pretty much just an intro video for Base Raiders. It's been suggested by my players that not everyone knows the Fate system that well, and pretty much no one will have heard of this, so a quick introduction is probably necessary. I'm not going to go into too much detail because, well, you need to buy the book to get the full backstory and rules, but this will give you a basic idea if you've never run into Fate of how it works. First up, this rule set I'm running is my own horrible concoction. Anyone who's reading the screen can see I've just basically reskinned the Dresden Files and done a few basic modifications to that. Therefore, horrible gaudy colours and terrible placement of things is all on my own fault. But first up, let's give a bit of a background to the Base Raiders world. It's your standard superhero world. Superheroes have been around. Aliens have invaded but have been beaten back by superheroes. Everything was going good. They formed a giant kind of corporation almost of superheroes called the Ideal, which was there to police superhero powers and to stop them getting out into society. Unfortunately, about a year ago, that all went wrong when Ragnarok happened. Some giant alien device appeared in orbit and kidnapped all the superheroes and supervillains in the world. It lasted only a few hours, minutes, I can't remember exactly what it says in the fluff. Then it disappeared, taking with it all the superheroes. The only problem is, it didn't take all their bases with them. So, all their sidekicks are still around. The Batcave, if we're using the Batman analogy, is still there. And it's now a year later, and a group known as Base Raiders has formed. They're people who go into these abandoned bases, which is incredibly dangerous because superheroes and supervillains don't leave them unguarded, and basically steal whatever they can get. They then use that to give themselves superpowers. So this is literally, if I bring that up, this is like your world where you have an eBay for superpowers, which, as you can guess, is caused some consternation for governments. So, they're pretty much four major factions. The Base Raiders I've already mentioned. They range from heroes through to villains to people who are just out to make some money. Up against them is the status quo, which is the governments and corporations and stuff like that who don't really want stuff to change. Although the corporations, if they can make money, will go for it. Next is organised crime, who want to make as much money as possible, and they want to get their own soldiers and operatives superpowers if possible. On the other hand, though, they don't tend to trust the people they give them superpowers to because, they're superheroes or villains. So, they have a kind of a give and take thing going. And finally, there's the Underground, which is made up of aliens left over from the invasions, people from alternate universes, basically a whole class that society deems as non-human. They've banded together to form a group of terrorists almost, they range from terrorists to people who just want to avoid. So they kind of hoard their own technology and they understand it better. Alright, so that's a quick update of the world. To say if you want more information, Base Raider book is good. We probably will, if you're reading the thread, you've already noticed Clockwork Joe or Ross Payton, who wrote this, is a goon and is going to be watching us. Which, isn't going to be terrifying for us at all. Alright, so how to explain Base Raiders. If I just create a random character and bring up the sheet, ignore what you just saw there. This is the basic sheet we're going to be using. I think the main thing to go into first is skill checks. Fate is not a normal D6, D100, D20, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't use normal dice, it uses what's called fudge dice. I'm just going to roll some of these. Every fudge dice has two pluses, two minuses and two blank sides. So when you roll them, you add the pluses together, take off the negatives, and see what you've scored. So here I've got 3 pluses and 1 negative. That's a score of 2 total. And here we have a plus and a negative, which goes together to make a 0. To that you'll add a skill total, and then you'll look at the ladder. The legend base rate actually goes up ascendant and godlike, so 2 more layers, but that's not really that thing. So if you're trying to break a fair trap, the first guy would have succeeded, the second guy would have failed. Onto that though, you can add your own skill rating. So if I just create a quick skill here, let's call it lockpicking. Give it my person is a fair lockpick. So if I roll that, he's got 1 plus, 2 pluses, 1 negative, and +2, giving me 3. So he would have broken into a fair lock or good lock. It's pretty simple. This is much more of a storytelling game than anything else. There's much crunch, and you can see how that works. So, difference is, in this game, because you're superpowers, of course you have different ratings. So, if you're exceptional at something, this is pretty much the best that a human can be. This is like your pro runners, the world's greatest computer program, stuff like that. To represent that, we drop a fate. Can't stop rolling it twice. We drop a fate dice and add a d6. So you see, normal range without skills is plus or minus 4. When you add in a d6, well, I just rolled a 7. As you can see, that's a lot more powerful. So if an exceptional is going against a human, he's got a very good chance of succeeding. If an exceptional is going against exceptional, you drop the d6 and add the fate dice back in. Next one up, of course, is a superhero who gets 2d6 and replaces 2 fate dice with that. So that's a terrible roll. He only rolled 3. But that shows you that a human can still beat a superhuman if he gets lucky. More likely, though, he's going to roll a 9 and completely annihilate you. Next up, Ascendant is 1 fate dice and 3d6. Have I got that plugged in right? I'd like to see, I think I've not got that plumbed in right, but I'll fix that. And then Godlike is all the dice are d6s, which means you pretty much have no chance of defeating a Godlike. So, as I say, if a superhuman went up against a Godlike, it'd be 2 fate dice and 2d6. It's kind of like a give and pull. The higher you are up the ladder, the more d6s you get, which makes a large difference. So, how are you going to beat a superhuman or anything like that if you're only rolling the dice or skills? You haven't really got much chance. What comes into here, though, are the concept of aspects. Now, this is the hardest thing to get about Fate. Basically, you have about 5 or 6 aspects to your character. These are things that are always true about your character. So this guy, I don't know. Try to come up with a good aspect. I'm just going to flick to the rule book here and pick one from one of the characters. So, prototype. Here's one for a character called Iconoclast, which is prototype field weapon in testing. Prototype weapon in field testing. What's that mean? Well, aspects are basically there to give you a series of options. If you invoke an aspect, you pay a fate point, of which you'll have a certain number depending on how much you've spent into your character. At that point, you can either re-roll the dice or add or subtract 2. It's basically a way of modifying a dice roll using something about your character. In this case, you have a prototype weapon, which means that you could then say, well, I've got a prototype weapon. Maybe it's got a function that allows me to cut through walls a bit more. It's basically something that's quite nebulous, that's not 100% defined. Um, Another one that this character has is I am not my clone mother, which kind of gives a sense of trying to be better than her clone mother, or the fact that people will always confuse her with that. I say it's quite hard to explain, but once you get into the flow of it, you're basically looking at aspects as where you can invoke and get a good advantage. The other side of that, though, is as the GM, I can compel an aspect. If I think that in your character would be, well, go back to the prototype weapon. It's a prototype. If you use it, I can compel it to make it go wrong, which would cause some minor trouble to the story, but would also give your character a fate point. So you can end up with this fate point thing. You can self-compel, you can compel on another character. You can basically, it's a storytelling device to continue generate trouble for characters while giving you the ability to build up fate points for when you actually need them. So you're trying to compel to build up fate points, and then you can blow them all in that one dice roll you need. So there should be a constant toing and throwing of fate. Last up, I'm going to deal with damage, which is, as you can see here, we have 3 different tracks. Health is self-explanatory, it's how much physical damage you can take. Composure is your mental ability, it's how how your character can react to stressful situations. Reputation is the trickier one. It's kind of a political one. It's how you're seen by people, so you can be embarrassed into defeat in this game. Everyone starts off with the first 3 bars unticked, so I'll just sort that out. The idea is once you take a hit, so combats can be a mix of these, but let's just say we have 2. My character is going to get hit. It's a Monday getting hit by an exceptional boxer. The exceptional boxer gets 1, and he gets 3. Let's do that till we actually get something that actually does damage. Okay, so let's just say we split those 2 rounds instead of me rolling forever. In this case, my guy gets 1, and my exceptional boxer gets the 3. Well, that's a good proof there that just because you're exceptional doesn't mean you can't be taken out by somebody who's mundane. In that point, though, the boxer has won the physical contest by 2 shifts. So my character here would tick off 2 stress boxes, and if all your stress boxes are ticked off, you're taken out. That does not mean killed. That just means that you have to concede the conflict and either flee or you're knocked unconscious. It's generally considered in base raiders that if your character is out to be killed, the GM should make that known at the start. After that, you can take a consequence. So let's say that my guy gets hits again for another 2 shifts. He doesn't want to be taken out, but he can't take any more damage. What does he do? Well, you'll take a minor consequence. Take that, and it will go down as put dizzy. He's been hit hard in the head. He's now dizzy. That's now an aspect. I can compel that if he's trying to do something like use a computer afterwards or anything like that. I'm going to say, well, you're dizzy. It's not going to work as well. So as you can see, you can take them to kind of keep your character going. A moderate, so the idea is a minor takes 2 stress off of damage. Moderate is 4, severe is 6. You also have an extreme, but we try to avoid them. So you can't just take, oh, I've got a moderate, I'll take 3 off that and save 1. No, you have to use 4 or nothing. It's also how quickly they disappear. Minors disappear at the end of a scene, moderate at the end of a session, and severe at the end of a story. So taking severe is going to leave you beaten up for quite a while. I think a severe also affects you'd have to change one of your aspects to deal with it as well. Not sure if extreme's used in this one or not. I'll have to double check that before we get started. So taking a consequence will keep your character in the fight, but will also cause you trouble down the line. There are also another, Base Raiders has another, which is collateral consequences. These are scenes in the environment. So, you know, superheroes fighting tends to cause a lot of damage. And that kind of overspills. So a minor consequence could be, you know, smashing up somebody's car. A moderate could be, you know, destroying a building. A severe could be accidentally killing you know, an orphanage. Stuff like that will affect the world. So as the game goes on, the severe consequences never really disappear, but they, at certain points, they will merge into the general background. So the things your character does wrong will affect the world. So yeah, I'm trying to think of pretty much everything. So yeah, most of the other stuff is stuff you need the rules to pretty much get up on. That should be a quick overview of what Fate is. Hopefully it's interesting and useful. So when we play, we should pick out more of this. And I hope you enjoyed the Base Raiders. It's going to be interesting anyway. Alright, hopefully the next video should be some actual playing.